Hello, my name is Elaine Brailsford, and I'm with the American Quilters Society, and we are here at the Paducah Quilt Week. And I'm here with Linda Hrcka and Lisa Bonjean, and we're here to talk about the winning quilt, Portland Rose. All right, Linda, tell me a little bit about, you submitted the...
I submitted the quilt, Lisa did the applique work and the piecing, and I did the quilting. It's flannel with wool applique. It has a wool batting in it. And the design is all freehand. It's an original design, the whole quilt, and the quilting is all freehand. And there's 100 hours in the quilting. It took me 100 hours to quilt it.
To do the quilting?
Yes.
Okay, now you did the design. Mm-hmm. All right, tell me how you began that process.
The design is based on an antique quilt, and I just acclimated it to my wool applique, which is a lot easier nowadays than doing the needle turn applique. Mm-hmm. And I don't have nowhere near 100 hours into it with that applique. And wool applique is pretty much my life and what I kind of do teaching nationally with the wool applique.
When people see you, they think of
wool. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the flannel is from a line of fabric that I designed to look like wool, but it's flannel.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why it's so deceiving, is that it's made to look like wool and mimic wool, but it's really flannel, and you don't have the cost of wool or the weight of the wool.
Well, how nice! How nice to work with.
Yes. Yes.
So you designed the quilt from an antique.
Yep.
Is it
based on an antique?
Based on an antique.
Old-fashioned 4 blocks. You know, different border.
All right.
Yeah. You know, we all love those 4-block quilts.
We do.
Yes.
And the fabric is your design.
Yeah.
That's very exciting.
And the wool is hand dyed by my company too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all nice integration there.
Yes.
Very nice. All right. So tell me how you got the inspiration for the quilting then. There's a lot of quilting on here.
Yes. Well, I kind of looked online, looked at books on how antique wig rose, quilts, kind of the motifs that were in it, feathers. A lot of them had trapunto. This doesn't. It has a wool batting, but because of the micro stipple, that tight micro work, it would make the motifs pop.
It does.
So I looked at that and drew my inspiration and took a picture. I had my husband stand on a ladder and take a picture of the top, and then I drew on the photocopy of it. Basically, I copied it and wanted it to be a modern interpretation, but still have, pay homage to that it was an antique, inspired by an antique.
First, I want to know what kind of thread you used and those kinds of things, because we know what the fabric was.
It was so fine, all superior. I think there's one whole cone on there, so and then some. There, I think 1.5 cones that were used on it. It was superior, so fine in the top and the bobbin that were in it. When I quilted it, because there's so much tight quilting on it, I quilted around the appliques first and then did basting stitches all the way down the whole quilt, all the way to the bottom. And then I went back in and planted my motifs and did all the micro stipple to keep the quilt square. I was worried about the quilt being square, always staying square all the way up. So then I went back and quilted it all.
Because some of this is so tight. I mean, you really
it's
have
very
to get
tight.
close
I
up
put
to
like a
realize how
pin,
tight it
like a
is.
glass pin dot, and took a picture because they're so tiny. They're like grains of sand.
It's really, really nice work. Nice work.
Yeah, really.
Okay, now you have been quilting for how long? You've been in the industry.
I've owned the quilt shop for 10 years. This May coming up. I've been designing since 2000, so that's 14 years. And but everything just evolves so quickly and fast.
Yeah.
You're not ready for it, but it just happens, and you just ride it. Yeah. So, and this was totally unexpected. When she called and said that we won, I'm like, yeah, you're lying. You know what I mean?
So how did you all meet? How did y'all get?
I have a retreat house.
Yes.
And Linda came and spent the weekend, and she's like, her friend says, "Oh, you have to ask Linda about her quilting." So she showed me this quilting. I'm like,
you need 6 months.
Yeah.
I would never tell Lisa.
She's only been
Lisa Bonjean. Hey, I'm a long arm quilter. If I had only been doing it for 6 months.
So I'm like, you need to quilt my quilt. So I just sent them to Michigan, and they're just,
So you had been long arm quilting for 6 months.
Yes. When I did this, it was about almost 2.5 years. Almost.
Yeah,
when I
so
did this.
Totally 2.5 years is, So is it almost 3 yet? When did you get Yeah.
Now, we're always talking about how to bring younger quilters into the
Yeah.
industry. So how did you get interested in the first place?
I took a regular, just a quilt class at a senior center, like a retired community center. When I have twin daughters, when they were a year old, to get out of the house, I saw an ad in the paper for quilting classes, and it was on Saturdays. And I thought I could do this, and I loved it. And then later,
That was just your basic class. You're gonna
basic
learn how to
class,
piece,
learning
you're
how to
gonna-
piece, and I learned to quilt, stitch in the ditch with my regular machine. And then I just kind of had been quilting, and then got back into it. Was looking for a second machine, like to take to retreats, and saw long arms at a quilt show at a sewing expo, and tried one out, and they were kind of like, "Oh, you know, I think you're pretty good at this."
I think
you
she's
know?
got a God-given talent.
Yeah, and so I called my husband from the show around the corner. I was like, you know, I think I could do this. You know, I think that maybe I could like make a little money on the side for, you know, and do this and work from home.
I think that's
Let's look
turning
at-
out pretty well
Yeah,
for
so
you.
it did. It worked out.
You must be very happy about that purchase.
Yes, good investment.
And I see you have the beautiful trophy.
She does.
Yes. Who knew? I didn't know. This
Is
is
this
the
your
Oscars.
first time to ever
Enter? Yes.
Yeah. Well, I had quilts in 2000 and 2002.
Okay.
Entered, and then once I started designing, I just let everybody else enter my designs, and I didn't ever enter again. And when Linda wanted to enter, I'm like, go ahead, but you're entering it. You know what I mean?
So,
And had you ever entered anything
No.
before?
So she
No,
really
I
could have been
You
first
entered this in
time.
Paducah's show,
Yeah,
and you won.
yes,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
the first time I had filled out
Yep.
a Paducah, anything. Like I
Cinderella
didn't know what to
story.
And
write.
she has
No.
an honorable mention too in the show too.
Yeah, I have another client. It's Lisa's design too, and my
Yeah,
a
it's kinda
client
weird.
quilt and she entered it and it won an honorable mention. So I was crying over that at the
goodness.
awards ceremony. That her quilt won an honorable mention. I was crying at the awards.
Okay,
ceremony.
so first time you ever entered anything, did you decide to do Paducah?
Yes,
You won,
I had no idea.
and now we know
Yes,
what that first
and I
place looks
thought
like.
I wore my giant shoes, and I was like, I'm gonna walk on stage and kill myself. I was like, I went up there. I was like, I would have worn different shoes.
And then they give you something glass.
Yeah, she says it's like the
I was like
Oscars.
shaking. Yes, it's the Oscars. This is Oscars.
And it really is. That is so exciting.
It was so exciting.
Congratulations. Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So
It's
much
been
to
so
both of you.
awesome.
And
Best
enter some
experience
more.
ever.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
I was like, I love Paducah.
Wonderful. Enter again.
Awesome.
I want to move here.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Good job.
That is great.